countywide.
Oh, okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Regional Governance Board of the Southwest Vermont Regional Technical School District for our regular meeting Monday, June 17, 2013. I'd like to call to order the meeting because we do have a quorum present. And the first thing on the agenda is public comments. Are there any public comments this evening? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on. Before we get to our presentation, I would like to welcome our new board member, and we're honored to have you. Welcome aboard, and I'd like to inform the board that Jackie's already been attending the Strategic Planning Committee. She's been appointed to that, and she's already participated in board training with us and Kate. I really do appreciate you taking the time to represent both of you to come in and an extra time. We have another introduction this evening. Who's going to do that?
As you are aware, Greg Lewis, our business manager, is retiring at the end of this month. And we have our new business manager here in the audience today to observe her first meeting unofficially. And I'd like to introduce you to Stephanie Mulligan. Stephanie, would you come up to this microphone? And as my practice with all new hires, I like to put them on the spot immediately and give the board a little bit of a background, biography of who you are and what brings you here.
My name is Stephanie Mulligan. I have a bachelor's in science and accounting from UVM. I've been working as a partner at Crossroads Accounting, which is here in Bennington. We have a tax practice that serves individuals, corporate clients, partnerships, and fiduciary. Through that, I serve as the assistant treasurer for SBSU MAU in North Bennington. And prior to that, I worked for 3 years at a CPA firm in Latham doing large audits and servicing large corporate clients. I live in Bennington.
Thank you for doing that on the spot, Stephanie. You did a better job than I would have, rather than trying to remember what's on your resume. But welcome, and her first official meeting will be your August meeting.
Will be our August meeting.
But she will begin employed July 1.
Okay, very good. Welcome, Stephanie. We're looking forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a presentation this evening from our forestry instructor, David Dentz, and I always like to start the meeting with these. So Dave, come on up and give us your best. We're anxious to hear what you got.
Mr. Kalkeen asked me to come in and just do a quick presentation on a competition that my class just recently did. Those of you that don't know me, I am Dave Dentz. I am the forestry and heavy equipment instructor here. And part of what we do, a good part of what we do is a chainsaw safety training program. It's pretty intense. And through that, we go through a ton of introductory training and then practice in our woodlot through the winter. And then ultimately, after their second year, they are qualified to participate in a competition that all the other tech schools and their forestry programs compete in throughout the state. So I think there was like 8 that went this particular competition. So the class basically qualifies through a series of events, and the top 3 students, actually I guess we brought 4 this year, are able to compete against the other students in the other schools. So this game of logging competition, you know, it can be a little confusing because a lot of people say, well, why are we calling this a game? You know, chainsaw safety and chainsaw practice is a really dangerous thing, and it is. And this is a class and a program that's designed to engage not only students but adults. I took my first one probably 15 years ago, and engage them in safe practices with chainsaws in the woods and everything else. So through, you know, these loggers, the old-time loggers can be a tough crowd. So it started off with as a game to try to basically get them to engage in this new training and try to accept these new techniques. It was from Sweden. It's a really cool program. I've been doing it for a long time now. I competed when I was in college and all that, so I've been around it a lot. So there's just some pictures we're just going to let run in the background. These are some pictures from this year. Basically, because we can't take 7 schools and go out in the woods and you know, each person have their own tree to do all these things on. The wood is sawed up. This is all wood that we sawed up on our own sawmill from trees that came off from our wood lot. And you know, varying sizes from 14 by 14 cans down to 6 by 6s, and they're all precisely marked out. And each one of these events represents a technique that the student would use in the woods, like a big 2 14 by 14 cans stacked next to each other represent like what a big tree would be to cut a big tree down. There's boar cutting like this, which is just practicing a plunge cut, but not only just being able to plunge a saw into the tree to make a cut, it has to be very precise, hence all the lines on there, and it gets very intense when you have all these students participating in this. So we went up there with our 4 students, and we went through all these events, you know, just like a track meet or whatever, you're qualified to go on. 3 out of the 4 students qualified to go into the top 10, and then the top 10 basically are given a tree out in the woods that are all numbered, and they have to come up with a felling plan. It's kind of like the ultimate thing to get to this point. So we went into the top 10 with 3 in the top 10, and we ended up taking a 3rd and a 5th. And on just a couple of technicalities, and that's what it came down to, was a few seconds here and there on a few different things. So this is probably one of the neatest things that these guys get to do, and they take a lot of pride in this, and they take a lot of effort to get this far. And just to see them on this day is just the ultimate thing. And it's also the first time that I get to kind of just back off and let them do what they do. And it's also really good just to see everything, you know, come together and these guys work. So that's a little bit about the competition. You know, these guys, they all lead. In order to participate in this competition, they have to have the certification of the game of logging level 1 and 2. So we train for that for 2 years. We hire a company to come in that certifies each one of these guys, and it goes in their portfolio. And you need this certification if you're going to do anything on national forest land. If you're going to work for a logging company, you have to have this before an insurance company will even pick you up. So it's kind of a nice little credential that they walk away with. But then this is kind of a nice way to show it off.
Dave, I just want to pick up on one thing. You went there with your 4 students. You have more than 4 students.
We actually, I bring both classes because even my first-year students are now able to see what to expect for next year. Yeah, no, we had 2 really good classes this year. I don't know, 12 in each class.
And you had some local competition to determine who those 4 were going to be. Right?
Yeah, and it would have been nice to have those students here. Kind of ironically, most of our students this year, my 2nd-year students, were all from the Northshire. 2 of them are from Weston, and 1 of them was from Manchester, and then the others from Manchester. So it was 4 from up there. I didn't have any from down here that actually competed in the competition, and they've been out of school now for almost 2 weeks, so I felt funny to ask them to come down. But yeah.
Thank you. And one of the reasons I wanted Dave to come before you tonight is the name, the game of logging. It's far from a game, and the name is very deceptive, but the enthusiasm that I've witnessed with Dave's students go at it, and the amount of planning skill, safety is impressive. So thank you, Dave.
I mean, this is just a way to take an old-fashioned technique of using a chainsaw, many of you probably have, and bring it to a level that's very rare to see. I mean, these kids are very, very precise with a chainsaw and the things that they can do. So, yeah, it's pretty neat.
Any questions before?
You used the word canned. Is that referring to a milled
a
log?
Yep.
Okay.
have enough trees on our lots. We've been cutting for a while. We can go out and get more. I mean, we
Oh,
get
yeah.
other lots from other areas to do
Yep.
things up.
Yes, there's always, I would never really have a problem finding a lot. The problem that we have had recently in Bennington County is there's been a few changes in hands with the Bennington County Forester, who kind of usually, we work as a partner with them on a municipal woodlot. So we've kind of been, that's been on hold a little bit. I hope to get into one of Bennington's woodlots again. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but yeah, no, there's a lot of woodlots that just need to be cut. And the type of cutting that we do is really neat because we're not in it, we don't have any overhead. We go in and we do like absolutely perfect, very intense forest management because we can. And when we worked on the Y-Woods, it's a municipal lot for the town of Bennington for 5 years. And you walk through there and I mean, there's nothing but very nice trees left. And we called out or cut all the trees that were not that great and we utilized them to sell as firewood.
David, do you have any girls in your program?
I do.
Good.
I do, and we just finished up our last 2 CDL tests for this year. All my students that are 18 when they exit the program all get their CDL. So I just finished my last 2. One of them was a female. She's the 3rd now that we've done it with. And while we were over there at the State Highway Garage doing the test, one of my students, actually the first girl I ever had, she happened to be there, and it's just her 2nd year working with the state agency. She went to school to be an engineer, and she's working with a bridge crew. So it was really cool to see her over there. I didn't even know she was working there. So I went over, and she came over, and then I had, it was just neat because for probably the first 4 years that I worked there, I did not have any females in the program. And this girl and her friend came in, and ever since then they kind of like broke the barrier, and we've had at least 1, usually two females in every class. So, yeah.
David, your program exemplifies what we wish to accomplish here at the CDC. We're really proud of your program and of the work you're doing with it. Thank you for sharing with us. We have next on the agenda the grievance hearings, and the parties involved are not here yet. So we're going to give them a little more time, and then we'll go on with the agenda and see if they show. So we're going to committee reports, and I know that we have a report from strategic plan.
Yes. We had a very lively committee meeting. If you've read the minutes, you'll see that. I'm just going to give you the highlights. The Strategic Planning Committee discussed the community event that we had previously planned and how it ties in with our mission and philosophy. We agreed that we should reassess our mission and philosophy regularly, as well as our strategic planning goals, and we had 5 of those that we've been working on because of the constant growth of technology, trade, and educational fields. We would like to plan a community event to get input for the future direction of CDC and what should be the focus for the coming year. We need to identify the key players and stakeholders, and these would include faculty, staff, our board, students, parents, and advisory committee members. To begin this process, the faculty staff will discuss the vision for the future of CDC at their in-service training August 27th. Our board will be talking about our ideas at the August board meeting. And then our strategic planning committee will meet July 11th to discuss this further. And I was so happy to hear that there were girls in the forestry department. I'll tell you why. A number of years ago, I was a staff for a gender equity grant for CDC to increase the number of girls participating in the programs at CDC. And Jim Cocaine gave us the figures of 2012 and 2013, the number of females and males participating. There were 392 females and 514 males. So the women students were more than half of the student participants. So I think it is very important to encourage girls to participate in our programs, and this is a model in forestry.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you. Any questions for it on that? No? All right. We did not have a policy meeting. We did not have education or finance, but we did have a superintendent evaluation committee meeting where the committee did go through the evaluation process, and we're ready to present that this evening to the board in executive session. And we will discuss the results of that in executive session at the end of this meeting, regular July. No other committee reports, so we'll go on to the consent agenda. I need a motion to accept the minutes of the full board meeting on May 20th, 2013.
So moved.
Okay, it was moved by Kevin and seconded by Leon. Any discussion on the minutes of May 20th? Those are in a draft box. Hearing none, then we'll look for a vote on those minutes. All in favor of accepting the minutes of May 20th meeting, please signify by raising your hand. And that's you need to approve the minutes of the strategic planning committee. Those are also in the draft box and report to the clerk. I need a motion on that. So moved.
Second.
From Ricky, seconded by Gloria. Any discussion? Any hearing none? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. And that is also unanimous. The warrants. We have payroll warrant number 24, 1044, number 25, and 1046. Can I have a motion on payroll? I'll move those motions. Moved by Ricky, seconded. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. Any discussion on payroll?
I have one. On, related to...
That's a vendor warrant. No discussion on payroll, then all those in favor of the payroll warrants, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous as well. Now we'll take the vendor warrants. Can I have a motion to accept vendor warrant 1045 and 1047? Ricky, seconded by?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Kevin. Discussion. Jack?
There was one, I had, there was a double check.
Yeah, it was to the, it was to an organization for a, I think a membership.
Yes, yes.
Let's see here.
It looked like it was paid twice.
Yeah. I think it was for Stephanie Peters's,
Yes, that's the one.
and then another check number and another something for the same amount came up.
Correct.
Right. It was
There was
double.
check 13641, and then check...
What page?
Yes, 13644. So 13641 and 13644. And it says the same thing on that.
What page? On the
It's
bottom?
on page 3143. 3.1. Oh, page 13. And page 12.
Thank you.
There was a state one and a national one. So there was one here, I think the one that you're looking at is check number 14495.
It says 13641.
That's check.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Okay, can you tell us what the check is for?
Okay, so the first one I'm looking at is
Page 12.
page 12. That's the national organization. That's for 95. And there's another one. Where's the other one?
It says the other one's the New England organization.
Right, so those are two separate entities. So the teacher put in for both those at the same time. Confused me a little too.
And they're both the same amount.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions on the warrant? Yep.
I have one question. There's a May cell phone bill here of $116. Is that for just one phone?
Who's the vendor?
Uh,
AT&T?
Doesn't say.
This is a reimbursement to the assistant director for that. So I'm not sure
What that in? I just wondered if we were paying that much for every cell phone
so that may have been, is that 1 month? Right?
in the bill.
So that's 1 month.
That's cheap. Which one is that cheap?
Is that cheap?
Yeah, it's cheaper than mine.
Didn't anybody hear of unlimited plans?
Mine is unlimited.
I believe that is an unlimited plan.
So you have to go with 400 minutes for a $50 one.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Any other concerns on the warrant? Go ahead and vote on them. All those in favor of accepting the warrants 1045 and 1047? And those are unanimous. Okay. I'm being advised here that after 25 minutes, we can ask for a vote to dismiss the hearing on the grievances.
I'll make a motion to table.
Is this an extra
Any
copy?
discussion on that?
Was she informed of this date?
Yes, actually,
Okay.
in two different ways, through her rep. And we also inquired if she would agree to this date because we were one day over the required 10 days, I think, we had to respond. So
Okay, all right, good.
she agreed that this would be okay.
We had, being superintendent director, both step 2 and 3 would go to me and it would be redundant. I met with them on step 2. I had said that I would agree to skip 3 and go right to the board, or I might have to go right to the board for the next level if they would agree that the 17th, today's meeting, would be in compliance with the contract obligations, and I have an email confirming that.
And we were informed by Stephanie that she considered the first grievance as settled.
And so,
So she did not want to come for a hearing on that. And that first grievance had to do with the posting of the job description posting.
Is that one then just withdrawn, so you don't have to vote on dismissing it?
I would assume it's, but
her wording to me was she considered it settled, but
So it's withdrawn, so at that point, you don't have to vote on it.
okay.
But you should vote on the other.
We should vote on the agreements that was going to be presented, or has been presented during the hearing that we were going to have on our revised agreements.
One more question.
Yes.
Since they didn't show, can we send the bill to have our attorney here to the union so that we won't have to pay for it? Since they didn't have the common courtesy of telling us they weren't showing?
I believe this is a grievance by the individual and not by the association. So
Okay.
this time, no.
Okay, I tried.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor then of voting to dismiss this grievance, or the hearing, excuse me, on the grievance brought back to Parker, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you, Ron, for coming. I'm sorry that,
That's okay. The effect of this is that she's lost her right to take any further action on this grievance. It's completely closed at this point. The statute requires them to follow the procedure in order to exercise any additional rights.
Very good.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good to see you.
Appreciate you coming because I've never been through a hearing before. I was going to have a coach to my left hand.
One quick question, can the union file a grievance for that individual? You said it was her own.
By contract, every grievance, the union is a party to every grievance, whether it's filed individually or by the association itself. But
That's correct.
yeah,
So it's done.
I believe all deadlines are passed for
Okay.
filing that.
Thank you.
That was
Then we're going to move on. Cash flow. That was in our Dropbox, and there was, I know that I went through it. It's surprising the amount that we're falling in at the end of the year with, which I think falls within the recommendations of our auditors, and I'm happy to see that. Any questions on the mechanical or any comments? All right, action items. We'll move right on to those. And we have nominations before the board this evening.
I have two for you this evening. First, our building trades instructor. Claire, have the nomination form. It was in the Dropbox. I am moving the name of Brian Kuhn forward to the board. As you can see, we received 8 applications. We interviewed 6. We had a team do the interview. Brian comes to us with 19 years of experience.
Questions? All move the nomination.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Ricky and seconded by Lena to nominate Brian Coons as the building trades instructor. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor of this nomination, please signify by raising your hand. Second nomination.
For our IT hardware computer technician, recommendation Sherry K. Spangenberg. 14 applicants, 6 interviewed. She comes to us with an associate's degree in computer science and 22 years of experience.
Moved.
second.
Seconded by Kevin. It was moved by Ricky. Any discussion on this? Okay.
Where has she worked? Because it doesn't.
Experience on
Tanzer is on there, Takani,
Okay.
SCA, America's Technical Analyst, self-employed contractor, computer contractor. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of this nomination, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous.
We are still in the process of making final recommendations for law enforcement, still pursuing cosmetology, agriculture, and
Law enforcement.
Law enforcement.
Engineering.
Engineering.
Engineering, thank you. You will not meet again to August 17th, is it? I don't know what the wish of the committee is, but I understand the practice with the supervisory union after a discussion with that superintendent is the board grants authority to the superintendent to issue an intent to hire letter that then at your August meeting then would be ratified by the board. So I'm asking what this board would prefer to do. Is that, or you're going to have a special meeting once we have enough positions filled?
We've done that in the
What is
past.
the board's pleasure?
I think we've always called a special meeting for this.
No, we haven't.
No.
We've always done it, like
I
Jim
don't
said.
think I remember a special meeting week the
Yeah.
superintendent has. You
Right.
said it exactly right. It is,
Right.
the letter, no matter who you hire, it's not final until the board approves it. And so that would be, under the same circumstances, that person is being offered a job and then board approval. And we don't see anything wrong as to why it wouldn't be approved, along that line, but they have to have it that way. So I don't think we've had special meetings doing, we talk about it.
The only difference is the intent to hire letters are currently signed by the board chair. So if you're available to still sign them, then that could continue, but it would still be an intent to hire letter.
So the person would be tentative.
Tentative, that's, I would probably only ask for a special meeting if I couldn't get someone to commit and they weren't going to give notification and until they had that from board approval, and then August 17th might be too late for the start of school since we start the 24th, so.
Maybe word it different, call it conditional, same thing we do with our background checks.
Okay.
Condition, being a little bit facetious.
Because that is true. Because the two nominees you did today are conditional on their background checks coming in. So.
So are we in agreement then that we can not need a special meeting unless Jim feels it's necessary that we call it? So we had shaken.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're going to give him the authority to issue the intent to hire letter. And then we will ratify it on the August meeting.
If for some reason you're out of town, do I have that authority? Does Kevin have that authority?
Sign the letter, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and we don't need that vote. The auditor's award.
Greg is.
In the packet, you saw that there were two bids. It's at the very top of the packet for the audit of our records.
I'll move that we accept the recommendation.
I will explain what's different is you traditionally have been going for 3-year audit bids. We changed this for a 1-year audit bid since you are going to have a new business manager next year. We felt it was best to keep that flexible, not that there's any issue with the auditor, but this audit will be done shortly after she's on board with us, and then this will, by next year, we'll await her recommendation.
Still recommend it.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the recommendation, the Frank's recommendation of the auditor. Do I have a second of that?
Second.
Seconded by Gloria. Discussion. Yes, sir.
The present auditors, we've had them for a long time under different names. And I don't have a problem with that. I think we've done a reasonable job with an auditor and an accountant. So that's the only thing I bring to the attention of the board. I was surprised to only see 2 and not 3 maybe more, I don't know if they're in short supply, or they're kind of either them or the other, and I'm not sure that that really was a...
I believe that it's good business practice that every period of time, whether it's every 3 or every 5 years, you should change your auditor, even if you only do it for 1 year. Get a fresh set of eyes in there. The year that we decide to do that, we might have to, and because it is, we go for a request for proposal, which then, as opposed to a bid process, so we could select somebody different, but you might, in that instance, not be selecting your lowest bidder. The board's going to have to decide, what is their priority, a different auditor for 1 year or the lowest bidder. But Ricky, I think what you say is very valid about changing it up and getting a different view once in a while.
I was surprised at the difference in the cost. There was like a $6,000 spread there. Is that unusual or is that usual, Greg, that bids are that far apart?
I vaguely remember this firm bidding before, and it was like that. It wasn't really particularly helpful to me. They didn't follow the instructions the second time around. They put 3 years in there as opposed to 1.
Right.
What I do for the bidding or for proposals is it goes on a state website, so it's available to everybody. And I also contacted directly one of the other firms. We haven't always had the same auditors. We had another firm here in Bennington, and they never responded. So their slate may have been full. I don't know. But, the other thing too is the further away you get from Bennington, the more they'd have to charge you because of mileage and lodging and that type of thing.
How long of a process does that usually take to go through our
The bidding?
No, the actual audit itself.
The auditors are here 3 days, physically on site for 3 days and up to 5 days. It's intense, but it really doesn't take that long. And the Bonadeo group, they do it in 2 parts. They have like a planning session, and that's basically a day where they come in and do preliminary work, and then they come back for the final piece of it. And then also, another intense part is the production of the financial statements, and they'll be working with the business manager on that. And the business manager has to come up with the management discussion and analysis to comment on certain pieces of the financials.
Any other discussion? So let's vote on the wording of this bid to the recommended auditor. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. And that's unanimous.
Do we need to state the name for TV purposes?
Yes, let's do that. Thank you. And that is Alan's. What is Alan's company?
The Bonadeo group.
Excuse me?
Bonadeo group.
The Bonadeo.
$30,000.
Correct.
For 1 year. As I mentioned earlier, we'll do the superintendent evaluation in executive session. I will comment, though, that we did follow a guideline. You'll see the forms and that we used, recommended forms from the Vermont School Board Association. I'll review those with you in the session. Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. First, at last month's meeting, I told you that we were having a technical assessment of our technology program, and we do have that report back. I told you I would give you a full report at the June meeting, but I'm going to explain to you why the full report is really going to be at the August meeting now after I've found out some things. One is there are some corrective actions that need to take place in our network, and I feel that if we discuss them at a public meeting, there could be some exposure issues. So until the contractor that is carrying that out, which will happen at the end of this month, then I'll be more free to. And that's why you have an executive summary in your packet tonight of the findings as opposed to the full packet, which then we will put on the August agenda, which I said was going to be on the June agenda. So that's my explanation. You have that. I don't want to read the summary to you, but you can look at the grid that is with it. That's probably the most telling, and you can see where some of our deficiencies are that are in red. That means that they do not meet minimum requirements, and they need rather quick corrective action, and that has been the priority that we're working on. So again, I want to thank the Assistant Director for contracting with us and getting this technical assistance audit done. And I think it's always good when we look at things and have someone else look at things and open our eyes and we see where we're vulnerable and what we can correct, because nothing is static and constantly moving, and this helps us to do that. So, any questions I want you to have before you on that?
Well, you mentioned a grid, and I don't see that in the Dropbox or in the packet.
You got it right here?
Right here.
I just got it in my packet.
It's
Should
a,
it orange line on there?
The YRG format, key to the YRG format.
Yeah, that's on
Yeah.
there. It's on the-
I know it's in the Dropbox.
Yeah, it's in the Dropbox on the same question.
Yes, it's SimQuest report.
Yeah.
yeah, it's.
Yeah.
It's page 2 of the report.
SimQuest report, did you find it?
No.
It's a PDF file.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's a good report, yeah, too bad you don't have it.
It's, as the superintendent stated, it's something that you don't discuss in public. Being a former technology director, you don't discuss issues of your network to the public because of the sensitivity of the information, which can be compromised when you're doing that. So,
And it is something that could be discussed in executive session if it really warranted at this point. But I think that we're going to have everything closed up by the end of this month.
I feel like you have a pretty good handle on it. Okay. Anything else? Jim?
Yep, I do. You had asked for, is the Schiller report in the Dropbox? The grid of the Schiller report?
That's, it is, but it's in a different section of the Dropbox.
Okay.
Thank you.
At the last meeting, I was asked on the status of the Schiller report and where are we. So I'm not going to go over the whole grid for you, but I'm going to tell you what has changed since the last time that we did the grid. So
It is at the very first page of the Dropbox, so if you keep hitting the arrow back, you'll see the folders, and one of the folders says the Schiller grid.
recommendation number 16 will be the first one I'll discuss. I'll give you a moment to pull that up.
Grid, landscape, and grid portrait, which one?
It's landscape, the very top one. And you're talking about which one?
Recommendation number 16.
Whoops, sorry.
16. Yeah, we'll read that for you.
It's not even coming.
What has changed from the last one is our NEAS progress report was submitted, and the NEAS committee voted and accepted our progress report at its December meeting, which came after your December meeting, which was the last time that we discussed this grid. So we're good with NEAS. We have a couple of recommendations that we need to continue progress on, but we received a letter from them. Actually, first we received a letter from them, I want to say in March, saying that at their meeting they had not accepted our report yet because part of the report was missing. I went back and reviewed it, and we're all entering the electronic world, including NEAS, because the report's all sent electronically. They hadn't scrolled down. It took us a while to discover what was wrong with the report, because what they kept saying, we had not answered certain questions. We just hadn't scrolled to page 2 of it. So once we pointed that out to them, then we got the letter that our report was accepted, because we the life of us couldn't figure out why. Recommendation number 17. What's new in that is...
I'd just like to read the recommendation for the public.
I'm sorry.
The recommendation reads, the CDC director and his designee should oversee curriculum and instructional practices. Okay.
Yep. One of the goals that the committee gave me this year was to implement a curriculum review cycle. It's a 3-year cycle. First year is really a study of what is currently done in a program, what curriculum is used, what textbook is used, what budget is used to support that, what's the equipment in there, basically a whole snapshot of where the program is. I placed 3 programs in that cycle this year, and the following, next year will be the implementation of some of that, of what was studied, and followed by 3 new programs entering it next year. This year, the programs in it was communication technology, your manufacturing CAD program, and artificial intelligence / computer academy, computer network academy. What I want to say about it is, let me read this out. The rollout of a new concept to staff, such as curriculum review cycle, is not always greeted with enthusiasm. This trial year is only the beginning of a permanent, constant cycle whose implementation will improve along with the easing of the anxieties that comes from an annual use. This was a foreign idea to many of our staff, with some staff questioning the value of a review cycle. But I think that there is much of our curriculum that is outstanding, as it is presently written, but it is all in need of review. Much of my time during the meetings was spent explaining the process and stating that if we don't take an accurate picture of what we are currently doing, we cannot measure how we stand and where we need to go. The curriculum is a living document that is always in need of revision to reflect the changes around us. So I think the first year rollout of it was a start. Do I think we've accomplished everything that we need to do in it? No. There's still, and what I meant when I said, the more we do it, it's an annual review, and the more programs come in line into it, I think the familiarity of it will help with the acceptance of the process. I do think, and what I'm proposing for next year, the 3 programs that will enter, and the staff members don't know this yet, but medical professions, building trades, and co-op employability skills. I think that it definitely, in 2 of those, we have the opportunity to step in a different direction on some of those programs. So that's recommendation number 17. I'm expanding on that. No action. Recommendation 21, if you want to read that.
21. Require all CDC course instructors to administer a student end-of-the-year evaluation.
The state of Vermont requires that we do a year-end assessment testing for those programs that do have it. Assessment tests are not yet available and have not been developed by the state for all programs, but we are requiring and moving forward with it for all programs for which a test exists. So it's a completed, but it's not, you could call it in progress, because we do not have a year-end assessment test currently written for every program, but that is something that's coming from the state, we're being directed to conduct, and it is required for us in any test that any program that has it offered, for us to count them as a completer. So still more to go, but
how are the assessments done?
How are the assessments being conducted right now is the question.
By the staff member, by the teacher of record for that program, and it's a a nationally recognized or state recognized assessment test that they take.
So for the programs that are not, you don't have, do they have a portfolio assessment?
We have some that do scenario assessments and some that have their own self-generated assessment, but while waiting for the state to develop that test, there are educator groups that are developing and meeting throughout the state to bring every program online with a test. And the problem with scenario testing and self-generated testing, it makes it very difficult to compare how you're doing against people outside of your own center. So we,
correct,
yeah.
But what programs are not evaluated?
I don't have that in front of me, and do I know that on the top of my head? I'd have to go back and pull another list, but I can get that for you.
Because there's several programs out there that do portfolio testing. In the portfolio testing, you have a set of criteria, and it's not just self-criteria, it's criteria developed by the teacher, by the students, and maybe even by the community. So for instance, in CAD testing, you have this type of a maxim that you use, and you're grading on it, and then you have to produce something.
This recommendation is written, though, refers to the assessment tests that all programs are supposed to have, and whether they would accept a portfolio
By the state.
By the state. I don't have that answer.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like we're waiting for the state to make some decisions on program evaluations. In the meantime, it seems as if we have a variety of assessments that our faculty use. We saw one this evening. David uses a hands-on type of assessment to determine whether his students meet the standards of chainsaw safety. And I'm sure that that's probably what our faculty do here, is they have a conglomeration of both written and hands-on and other guidelines, national standards, etc. that they do use. I don't want the public to think that we're out there not doing any type of assessment in our programs.
Not at all. Every program does some form of it.
Yeah.
And this is very documented.
Yes, yes. So I think that we will, if anything, we'll try to urge the state on a little more to get going on this. Maybe they need some volunteers to assist, and let's see if we can't work it out.
But in this one here, I'm just saying that it requires the CDC to have all of them done. I mean, whether the state develops them or not, it's saying that this all require all CDC boards and workers to administer something along that line. So if everybody's doing something, it seems to me that we would be saying that, wait a minute, we got this. This is how we're assessing that right now, and we can wait until somebody else from the state come along and says, this is what we want you to put in place of what you got. So, this thing we just talked about here, we got something in place. It may not be standardized out there, it may be pieces of it, but we can definitely have that and be compliant with whatever we got. I know you said in progress.
And that's part of the debate with the state tests or national assessments.
Right.
Yeah.
Programs vary by region and by center, and one side does not necessarily fit all. But recommendation number 24. It's establish a policy controlling the minimum number of students needed for a course to run based on physical analysis. You completed that in your committee work in January 2013, and you now have a policy that was vetted by the policy committee and then approved by your full committee. So you did complete that.
That is policy number 6400, optimum and minimum class size policy. Was approved in February. Am I correct?
Recommendation number 26, it's ongoing, explore online and then visit some of the career development educational programs in the nation that are recognized as best practice. I did visit one. I toured High Tech High School on the recommendation of a member of the Manufacturing Advisory Committee. And this summer, the administration and staff will be attending professional development with other tech centers in the state of Vermont. The state of Vermont is very enthusiastic about the professional development and curriculum alignment with career centers that work, and that is the focus of that summer workshop, which could lead to a number of things, everything from we would no longer be accredited by NEASC, but we'd be accredited by the Southern Regional Educational Board, which stresses high-quality technical education with rigor and relevance. So that has begun, and but it will be labeled ongoing because that will be completely done. No question.
Are we talking about changing the accreditation agency?
I think that almost every tech center in Vermont is exploring that, including the state of Vermont is exploring for tech centers. Career Centers That Work is another division of the Southern Regional Educational Board. High Schools That Work is their other division. High Schools That Work are for tech centers that are full-time students, and the term the Southern Regional Educational Board uses is shared student centers. That's what we would be classified as here, because we share our students with other schools. I'm not saying that's what we're going to recommend, but we are going to spend a year exploring it.
We'll hear more about that later.
You mean the board's going to?
The board, yes.
I personally think it's a good thing to, because if you're viewed in terms of high schools, it's a whole different thing than if you're viewed in terms of tech centers.
Well, what prompted my question was the thought that I thought I read somewhere where the state of Vermont required us to use NEAS.
The discussion,
but they're changing that.
They're discussing it also. We're required to be accredited by an accrediting organization. NEASC has been maybe the only player on the block, but we are Tech Centers is a subgroup of NEASC who primarily accredit academic centers, comprehensive high schools. And the director of NEASC, who oversees technical education, has retired, and as of today's date, NEASC has not replaced him and is indicating that they might fold the division and just treat us all the same. So it's worth looking into. It wouldn't affect our operation. On a surface view, I think it's an organization, an accrediting organization that is more aligned to what we do here, but time will tell.
There would be a different rigor involved, because in a high school, when they're assessing you as part of a high school, the rigor is, that's the tech center. Whereas if your rigor is involved with just tech centers, it's much higher.
Understood.
I understand that you'll be looking into those at your conference.
Yes.
At your attention, your assistant director this summer.
Right, and then in August we have a group of teachers going to Lake Morley, where they have their annual CTE conference, and the executive director of High Schools That Work and Tech Centers That Work is the guest speaker and facilitator of that. Recommendation 27, I'm going to go 27, transfer the business and finance operations to the SVSU. Recommendation 28, eliminate the position of business manager. Recommendation 29, eliminate the position of business manager assistant and transfer that to the SVSU. We've rejected all three of those since we've last reviewed this. We contracted with a school business consultant to review our business operations. We used SurveyMonkey to poll the board on what recommendations, what direction we wanted to go to. As I said, our business manager is retiring this June, and at the last meeting you hired a .5 business manager who will start 2013, July of 2013. She's currently coming in 1 day a week now for training. and overlap with Greg, and I think it's going to be 2 or 3 days at the end of this month that you will be being trained in our budget software. So I think that, and the consultant, as you see the notes reported and stressed the importance of keeping the position of business manager assistant, and as I explained to you before, based on calculations of numbers and warrants and purchase recs and volume, I think that we can make this change, but time will tell. So we did make, we did address those and moved on them. Recommendation 30, transfer the human resource functions of the CDC to the SU. We've rejected that at this time. You see my note, that was at a January meeting. I said at this time I feel it can be handled by our current staff, but additional training may be needed. Recommendation 31, transfer the CDC technology support staff position to the SVSU and integrate the operation and staff. Rejected that. We commissioned an audit by an independent contractor for technical assistance, as I explained to you earlier. I think corrective actions are currently in place. We've hired a new IT hardware technician. I think that I don't see where the savings would be at this point for transferring them, and we had discussed that at a previous meeting anyways, but it had not been documented in this grid. Recommendation 33, switch from Rediker student information system used by the CDC to the Infinite Campus student information system used by the MAU to eliminate costing annual entry of grades and attendance to ensure teachers can quickly access the CDC MAU students' grades and other pertinent information. I don't think that is necessarily an accurate statement in that recommendation. I don't think there is the cost and manual entry of grades and attendance going on that Dr. Schiller thought when he was there when we do a more thorough look ourselves. I don't think it's completed. That's why I called it a future review goal. I did note, though, we're in the process of reorganization of the office staff responsible to eliminate some of these redundancies. We're in the process of doing that, and for the August school board meeting, it is my intent that you will have new job descriptions for the 2 office staff. The remaining, from you had 2.5 office staff. We had 1 full-time person leave. We moved our part-timer to full-time, and that's where we stand at an office strength of 2 rather than 2.5. I think that's where we're going to get our efficiency as opposed to switching. But Rediker is in the midst of a change in what the product is, so I think making any change in software in any one direction is still premature at this time. Recommendation 36, and you can ask questions on any other recommendation, but what I'm highlighting is the recommendations that I feel action has been taken on since we last reviewed this. Recommendation 36, upgrade security procedures, establish a lockdown procedure coordinated with MAU High School, and keep auxiliary doors locked during the day. It's a completed / in progress. The auxiliary doors are locked during the day. Summer 2013 work is planned on front door lock and buzzer system. In the school year 2012-13, we conducted 2 lockdown or containment drills, whichever is your phrase that you prefer. And Vermont law has changed that in 2013-14, the school year monthly fire drills will be replaced by monthly rotation of fire drills and lockdown / containment drills. In the month of September, there will be 1 of each, and then it will rotate every month from there. And I think it's long overdue. We mandatory fire drills every month. As I've said to you before, I don't downplay the importance of it, but if we look at where loss of life in schools have been lately, it hasn't been in fires, and we need to practice, plan, and be ready for others that will hopefully never happen. One thing I want to amend since I wrote this, I might be delaying the front door lock and buzzer system, and that's really a reaction to what Mount Anthony, as you know, we share the building with Mount Anthony. When I wrote this, at that time Mount Anthony was building a security kiosk at their front door, and there would be a buzzer system to let people in. I believe they have since altered that plan to leave the front doors open and build out an extension to their office area so that there is a office staff member basically sitting in the hallway observing who comes in the door and directing them to the right location. I'm sure we'll have more discussions on whether that is the final plan or not, but right now I can't sit here and tell you that we're going to lock our second set of doors and put a buzzer to come in, because I think it would be futile if we did and they didn't, and yeah, and what that would do to student traffic. So, because it's going to be a cultural shift if we do it, and if we're out there doing it by ourselves, it's just not going to work.
Is there a camera surveillance?
We have camera surveillance in the building, yes we do, and so does the high school.
And is it outside too?
Yes, it is. Mike, what's the total camera number?
Currently 36 cameras for the CDC alone.
Yeah. And digitally stored for up to 30 days. I think our camera system's pretty good. We've upgraded some cameras that we need. There's probably a couple that we're going to need to replace this summer because they've gone down. That's when we usually do it.
The cameras, are they monitored? Or are they after the fact?
They are after the fact. There is a live viewer, but...
So we'll become a great reporting agency, but not to actually stop any problems.
Well,
Just bring that to your attention. Unfortunately.
when the kiosk is built, is there like a multiple viewer for at least the front doors and?
That would be the high school's plan, so I don't know what their plan is, whether they put a camera feed. One of the problems that they're dealing with is they have, in their defense, they have detached buildings with programs running. So the back door there, how do you come and go through that door and still you lock it? Well, you'd have to equip every student with a fob or a swipe card, and not that that can't be done, but there's expense and there's also coordinate. I mean, could be somebody's full-time job keeping students with badges, and what do you do with lost badges, and how many you issue. So it's still being studied. Where I thought we were already, I think the estimate for our door lock and buzzer was about $9,000. So it's kind of on hold. I can't see spending that right now at this point until we know for sure. Recommendation 39. I already told you that's going to be part of that, what I told you on the Rediker versus Infinite Campus revised job descriptions. And with all that we're doing at the end of the year, they're not done. And spring, and so by the August meeting, I will have new job descriptions and alignments for the remaining staff in the office and what they'll do. I'll have recommendations that work for that. Some of these recommendations are redundant. The last one that I want to speak to is recommendation 46. It's the same thing, reorganize the CDC with scaled down administrative and non-instructional staff. The non-instructional staff, we eliminated one non-instructional staff position in the reorganization of the front office. And even in 47, recommendation 47, consider that any savings accrued from the recommendation reorganization changes in staffing levels of administrators and non-instructional positions be reinvested into the educational program and services provided by the CDC. Well, you're a reduction of a business manager to 0.5, so you have embraced that recommendation, and the elimination of the student data-based position, and you want to use that to fund an agriculture position, so I think that you have complied with that. And that, in my review, is what we are currently updated, and we'll continue to work through. Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
That was a run-through of the matrix of the Schiller report, recommendations of the Schiller report. Is there any discussion on any of those items that were mentioned? Brought to our attention this evening.
Just one simple question. On the end of the year assessment that we talked about, for programs where we have an articulation agreement with the college, isn't that a very good assessment after all, if the college is handing out credit for one of our programs, I'm not sure we need to be spending a lot of time and energy on
Well, as far as
another assessment program.
we don't really have a choice as far as what the state's telling us, because if we're using funds from them in Perkins, that is, I think Dr. Schiller was astute enough to review what standards were in place for us from a state level and incorporate it into a report that, you know, we think it was a unique recommendation. I don't believe that one was. If there, you know, the state wants along with articulation agreements, along with dual enrollment opportunities in each program, and like, what's that in our school improvement plan that they give us every year on our Perkins fund? I don't know if I'm using the right term. That comes down with we have to list every program and what they do.
Right.
Do they have articulation? Do they have dual enrollment? Do they have a nationally recognized credential? And do we have a national recognized curriculum that they're aligned with? So, you know, they don't want us just, for our programs, and then the last piece would be an assessment test that can be replicated elsewhere. So those are their requirements for our programs to have full approval, and we're not there with every program. So again, to go back to the Schiller report, I don't think this is just something that he thought would be a good idea. I think he's regurgitating what the state standards are for our programs.
Any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to ask Jim, at the August meeting, I'm going to put on the agenda that we review the recommendation of looking at Infinite Campus. Infinite Campus is the student data management system that's used at Anthony Union High School. Mr. Schiller has recommended that we implement the same software, the same program, so that we have consistency with the high school students. There are pros and cons of this recommendation. Therefore, we'd like to examine those pros and cons at the next board meeting, which would be in August, so that we can make a decision and follow through with that recommendation to close that one out as well.
I only have two more things actually 3 more under my superintendent report. Some of you came to awards night. Thank you very much. I thought it was a wonderful evening. Thank you to the staff members who put that together. It was, I thought, a very impressive evening of the accomplishments of our students. That was June 4th. The roof repair or sidewall flashing repair was completed on Friday. We had numerous leaks during the repair that it was done, probably more tile damage, ceiling tile damage than what was before, but that's the nature of the construction business. Once they open something up and it starts raining, and they can only cover so much. But I didn't detect any new leaks today during the heavy rain, but that project has been done and is completed, and hopefully then this summer we can then repair and replace and repaint from the damage of the ceiling leaks. I already told you about building security. The ESP negotiations, I have a tentative agreement. I will discuss that with you in executive session. So that the final negotiation for that was Thursday night, which I was at. And there is one personnel issue that I will also discuss with you in executive session, and that concludes my report.
Do you want to make a note of the FYI letter that's in the Dropbox from the police department?
Since I don't have it right.
It's a special thanks on the special their participation in the special Olympics.
Oh,
yes. The students participated in the Flame of Hope from Mr. Hunt's class. And it was a letter of appreciation from the police department. We always like to acknowledge those.
thank you for picking up on that for me.
Okay, Chairman's report. In your settings of your iPads, you now have a calendar. If you recall, I asked at the last meeting that we have a calendar that we can start using, and Mike has an information sheet he's put together, how you can configure that calendar. You can get a copy of this from Mike. It's fairly easy, and it will pop right up in your Dropbox. Just a word of warning. Anyone can post to this calendar, but if you post something in there, everybody sees it because it's a shared calendar. So if you've got to pick up some milk tomorrow, don't post that in this calendar, okay? This is for committee meeting reminders, for events, etc. And it just kind of helps us to stay on track with some of the things that we're going to have going on here at the CDC and with Gloria's agenda that she's talking about. There's going to be plenty coming up,
Yes.
up and going with the invitations to community here. So I just wanted to mention that. I got an email from the Vermont School Boards Association, and basically they are asking that I mention they are seeking positions on public policy issues to be considered and adapted as resolutions for them to go to the legislature with. Okay? You can go to their website, the vsba.org site, and you can see the 2012-2013 resolutions that they pushed for in the legislative session this past year, and you can make some recommendations. There's a format as to how to do that. So if there's something you would like to see the Vermont State Legislature address, whether it has to do with assessments or it has to do with accreditation, or it might even have to do with funding, you might want to make fill out one of those forms and make a recommendation to the Vermont School Board Association to do that. And if you need any further information, I'd be glad to pass that email on to everyone so that you can have a chance to put in your 2 cents on what you think the legislation should be looking into. Jim's hit up on the awards ceremony. I too just want to reiterate what a great ceremony it was held over at the Elks Club. The participation was outstanding, and it's always exciting to see parents and their students, proud parents and students, being recognized. I really appreciate being invited to that ceremony. Teacher negotiations are coming up, and there are a few items that I need to mention to you. That number one, I'll mention for Fran, he's not here this evening. He did make a statement, and he's making that statement at all board meetings that he attends. He attends a number of them. And he wanted to reiterate it again this evening, that he has requested that teacher negotiations occur in open session, open to the public. So that's not a surprise to anybody, and that will be apparently discussed and examined at all the different levels of the SBSU, the Tech Center, and the elementary school boards as well. Yes?
She also looking for a board to agree with it, or?
I believe he is. He's looking for a consensus from the board. He is going to look, and I'm going to wait for him to ask that when he returns. But he will be asking this board for their opinion and looking for them to give him somewhat of a consensus on that. I'm sure they can have it at the next meeting that he attends. So be prepared for that. In all my recent training and work with Vermont School Board Association, they have been encouraging that before you go into negotiations, get the issues out on the table now, so that nothing is a surprise on the opening day. So don't be afraid to mention in open session to your negotiators, to your negotiating teams, issues you think that need to be addressed in the bargaining agreement this year. So, and bring those right to the public. Bring those up and tell us at meetings, so that it's not a surprise to anybody, and that everybody is, and the public is aware that these are issues that you think should be addressed in this bargaining agreement. And with that being said, I'm going to give you an example of one right tonight. Okay, I think we should have a separate teacher's contract for the Career Development Center School District. I would love to see that happen, that we can negotiate with our teachers an individual contract so that we would have the options to address some of the additional work that our teachers do and the opportunity to compensate them more for some of those things they do, and not to be tied to a teacher's contract that reflects elementary school teachers' time with students and issues that really don't associate us. Even though the bargaining agreement is broken out, has its separate sections, it becomes very confusing when you're trying to work those issues. So for the public and for the teachers' bargaining union, I hope that you consider talking to us about a separate teacher's contract for the career technical center. That's my wish.
I would agree, I would support that.
Thank you.
I do too.
Thank you. You don't? No. And that's what I need to hear. That's why we need to bring those issues forward and discuss those further. Okay. That's all I have for the chair's report. I need a motion now to go to executive session, and we probably will come out of executive session for a vote as well. So,
Make the motion to go to executive session.
all right. By Ricky.
Second.
And seconded by Leon. All in favor?
The single connect to Wi-Fi.
I'm going to get a piece of cake.
Right, there've been some changes. There've been some
I was
changes.
thinking about it.
There's a sheet